Nothing about my time here can be distilled into something simple. Whether that's a product of Taft or high school or life in general, I'm not sure. But as I've explained my experience here to outsiders and insiders alike, I found that my stories have always been littered with conditionals and backstories and lengthy yet somehow oversimplified explanations. I find it strange that we can all go through Taft, living in the same place with the same people and all the same things, and after 4 years produce completely different descriptions of our time here. I'm sure all of you understand what I'm saying, that nobody else can really understand what Taft is for you. But I think that we, as Taft students, are closer to understanding one another's experiences more than anybody else in the world. Maybe what I'm trying to say is that Taft is a really different depiction of life, and it's really hard to explain, even to each other, but it all leaves us with some various assortment of lessons. So I'm going to try and explain mine. I have spent far too much time thinking about who I used to be. I'm constantly reminded of that trademark young naiveness whenever I open my journal, or scroll too far down on my Facebook, or peer too closely at a classroom I inhabited 4 years ago. Taft is funny that way. Such a small, enclosed space can envelop such a wide embodiment of you. So I'm reminded of myself often here, and I'm reminded of the dumb things I said or did or believed back then, and I kick myself for them, like criticizing myself now can or will rectify actions committed long ago. Of course they can't. This is a flaw of mine. A lot of you will inevitably feel embarrassed about who you were in your freshman or middle school years. But if I'm truly honest, I'm going to tell you right now that nobody remembers or cares. No one cares that one of your eyebrows was bigger than the other, or that you got a 67 on a physics test one time, or that you skipped the post-sit-down jig frenzy in favor of some peace and quiet. Because practically everybody who is a teenager feels like this. It's wired in our biology to feel like we're on a reality TV show that's being broadcasted to every single person we've ever encountered. It's surprisingly normal, and I hope you take comfort in that. And I hope you take comfort in the fact that everybody else is too busy worrying about themselves and their own respective spotlights to think about you anyways. So, to you, in your Bingham chair, relax. And to me, watching past me give this talk, relax as well. You are not bound to many of the things you think restrain you. Let me construct a spectrum for you to envision. At one end, we have kids who are hardworking. And I don't mean ordinarily so, I mean eternally working, all-nighter pulling, under-eye bag sporting, heavy backpack dragging, caffeine chugging students. They enroll in more classes than they know is healthy to maintain, and spend hours in the library and wear their lack of sleep like a badge that sits prideful on their tired, concaving chests. At the other, we have kids who, for some reason or another, don't prioritize academic work. Whether it's because they focus on another aspect of their Taft career instead, or they're too brilliant to need to study, or they simply don't care about the repercussions, there are definitely a significant chunk of these people present at Taft. I would say they occupy a similar proportion of the Taft student body than the other hardworking kids do. Of course, there are kids in the middle. It is a spectrum after all, but they are a minority compared to the two dominant yet opposing groups I have established before. I have always admired people in the middle, because it's so easy to get sucked into either end. I entered Taft in the middle myself, and over my 4 years here felt an increasingly dominant yet arbitrary pressure to work more and harder. It peaked around my senior fall, when I worked myself so hard I fell into a depression. People told me things would get better after I submitted college applications. They didn't. The depression lasted months after the semester had ended. I'm still now feeling the repercussions of my lack of sleep, my eternal stress, my falling out with friends. People ask me if it was worth it, all that work, since I got into a good college and I made the high honor roll and things are okay now. But the answer is no. I needed to know that diligence is something that encompasses balance. I believe that we do need to learn to work hard because it's a skill that lasts far into adulthood and brings countless opportunities. But we can't work ourselves past the breaking point, past the point where our own well-being doesn't matter. That's a skill that you and I will need. There were many unanswered questions I had going into freshman year. What was having a roommate going to be like? How was I supposed to dress? How different was school going to be here compared to middle school? Respective answers that I have now: weird, preppy, and completely. But perhaps the largest question that haunted the months leading up to Taft was one of friendships. Whether I was going to have any, what they were going to look like, if I was going to love them just as much as I did the friends I was leaving. My mother told me I would make friends easily, as mothers tend to do, but regardless, I was nervous. As a 14-year-old kid traveling by herself across an ocean to a continent she had never lived on before to attend a school she knew little about, the prospect of potentially not fitting in was a daunting one. I suppose it's ironic then that I ended up being part of a group that is essentially a hodgepodge of incredibly diverse people, backgrounds, and interests. Our initial uniting factor was simply that we were not traditionally Taft. Other similarities were discovered afterwards as happy coincidences. We were, and are, unusual, and it took me a long time to be able to declare that freely. For a long time, I was looking for an escape. Not because I didn't love my friends immensely, but for a chance to fit in and feel normal. A couple years into Taft, I found a group that practically oozed cold, rebellious nonchalance. They acted as though they did not care about social conformity, which was what I wanted most of all. So I dropped my friends of 3 years to hang out with them, doing my best to adopt their attitudes and habits and ways of life. It took me 6 months, a tattoo, and a panic attack to realize I really, truly hated all of it, because none of what I was pretending to be was accurate. Luckily, the friends who I dropped forgave me with only a little backlash, and this year, despite its inherent suckiness, was lovely when I was with them. Desperately wanting to conform and taking any part of my friends for granted was dumb only in the way a teenager could be. Popularity. What a scam. I don't know how to end this video, similarly to how I don't know how to end my Taft career as a whole. There are so many things that I want to say and do, and I only have 19 days left today to actually do them. This video is short compared to the amount of things that I actually wanted to say, and that's a scary prospect too. Maybe you thought that the lessons that I had were cliche or boring, or maybe you thought that this format was weird, or maybe the video glitched and the entire meaning of the video was lost in that error. I'm not really sure. But one thing I want to say is that I hope that you got just as much from Taft as I did. I hope you got more things, and I hope you got different things, because Taft is weird like that. We can all go through the same place and get totally different experiences and come out with totally different lessons. But maybe that's what makes it so great.